Would it be helpful if I put my video on, or the voice is adequate?
Well, it would be good. Well, maybe everybody knows each other, but I don't know everyone visually. So I would appreciate just a snippet of the video. Then you could proceed using audio.
Yes, I trust you are able to see me now. And I trust that suffices for the purposes of knowing each other.
Yes.
But I think for the purposes of internet connectivity, I would then go ahead and switch off so that wherever everyone is, they are able to get the message loud and clear. Obviously, I would want to start from the devotion and point out that unless we refer to the Bible, we might not talk about trade and exports adequately. This is because back in ancient times, or back in Bible times, trade and exports are spoken about in the Bible. The Bible being one of the oldest books in the world, I think it would be unfair if we don't break a leaf from trade that was transacted in the Bible. So you'd notice, if you go into scripture, you'll notice trade used to take place very extensively. Mostly barter trade, salt, spices, gold. People would exchange hands and exchange goods by using those goods there. And very importantly, they would use scales in order for them to establish value of things. So that is the background that we are introduced to in the Bible. And anecdotally, we also hear from stories around about Zimbabwe taking part in trade even in Bible times. Anecdotally, people talk about Solomon's wealth and gold and minerals that would come from somewhere around this region that we are in. And anecdotally, they say chances are Solomon used to get his gold and minerals from this place. So we are not out of order when we invite the Bible to talk about things like this. Well, I would want to give you a few verses, preferably one, but I'll give you two today, so that we can infer and break a leaf from a perspective of the Bible. I'll start from Deuteronomy chapter 25, verses 13 to 15. I'll just read it from my end here. Then I will summarize with the verse that comes from Proverbs. Deuteronomy chapter 25 says, "You shall not have in your bag two kinds of weights, or a large or a small one. You shall not have in your bag or in your house two kinds of measures, a large one and a small one. You shall have a full or a fair weight." It actually says a full and fair weight you shall have. A full and fair measure you shall have, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord is giving you. So one leaf we want to break as we get into trade and exports, as we get to talk about trade and exports in Zimbabwe. We want to reason from an ethical point of view, and we want to be able to break from the word of God and see the perspective the Bible looked at when it was looking at trade. And one of them is honesty. And if our trade is going to be long enough, if our trade is going to be continuous, if our trade is going to be sustainable, the Bible is saying there has to be a measure of just weight. Honesty, integrity is what is going to add longevity to our trading and exports. Possibly I could be talking to the right group, I don't know. But we are talking against a background where Zimbabwe is not exporting as much. One of the areas we may want to fine tune, or one of the areas we may want to spend time on and pause a bit, is integrity and honesty. The Bible is saying if you are going to have a continuous, a going concern, so to say, of your trade, ensure there is honesty on the transactions that we are going to engage in. Corruption is what we are talking about here. Then I want to ice this cake with a verse from Proverbs to just summarize this little snippet I have given you today from Proverbs chapter 13, verse 11, which says, wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers it little by little will increase that wealth. I'm sure the background of this meeting is to fill the gap of an export deficit in the country. To say we want to have more of exports of our goods and services and everything that we produce, so that we can raise the economic status of the country, the financial position, so to say, of the country via the exports. And one thing that really happens when people are in such a background is to the tendency to want to do things quickly, the tendency to want to cut corners. But the Bible today is introducing a very, very fundamental business concept that would do very well to harness today. And I want to tie this Bible verse with Gresham's law, which says that bad money drives away good money. From a financial point of view, we are talking to monies that are not really backed up by real assets that eventually then chase away good monies. But from an ethical point of view, that is where I want us to really think through and pause a moment a bit to say, when money is driven, is not backed up by honesty and integrity, when money is driven by corruption, that corruption drives away good monies. So we might actually lose it and think that when we cut corners in our business transactions, when we do things that are not so above board, we could be attracting wealth to the country in this instance. But the Bible is putting it very clear that that method actually dwindles away our wealth that eventually comes to the country. So the emphasis and the business fundamental that is coming through today is again on the simple that people often miss it and think that sometimes by bribery, corruptions, and corruption and stuff like that, they're actually gaining ground to get their hands on the much needed wealth or money. But the Bible is very specific and it gives us a background ethically to say, when we lose our ethics, when we do business dishonestly, we are actually creating a deficit for the country. So one takeaway you can get from this presentation is that for business, for monies to come, for wealth to come in the country, for the gross domestic product to grow within the economy, and as we continue to transact our exports, as we continue to trade, one of the safest lending grounds is honesty and integrity. And this is the twine, the cord that ties business together and gives it longevity and makes whatever transaction a going concern. If trade is going to take place tomorrow, this is the fertile ground we can build it upon. If trade is going to continue flowing into the country, it flows against this background. When we cut corners, when we engage in corrupt activities, we are actually shooting ourselves in the foot. May the Lord bless us as we contemplate on this devotion, and may the Lord bless the reading of his word. Let us pray. Father in heaven, we thank you so much because you have given us this moment to pause for a bit and consider the trades that happened in the Bible. And above all, to break a leaf on the business fundamentals upon which trade was transacted according to your prescription. We ask as we proceed with the rest of the meeting that we might be fruitful in our discussions, and may we be able to harness and leverage on these simple God-given principles so that our business and our trade can have longevity, and we might be able to grow and increase the wealth of Zimbabwe. Is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. And thank you there to hello, is my screen visible? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can.
All right, yes. Amen. And thank you so much to Mr. Mashoko for that opening devotion. Thank you, and for the prayer. Without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to get our program started. I shared our program on the chat box. Please just do, those that haven't seen it, do take time to look through the program. It will be our guide on what's coming next, and even on our timelines. We'd like to try and keep within the time boundaries that we have set. Now, getting us started, maybe I could introduce myself. My name is Edwin, and I am with the ZimTrade, the Southern Region Office in Bulawayo. I would be very honored today to be hosting this because I am also one of you. I am Adventist. I go to Beacon of Hope Adventist Church, and as such, when this issue came up of engaging with institutions of higher learning, they said, Velile, obviously, you will have to take Solusi because those are your people and you're very familiar with them. So it is an honor for me to be able to host this. It's taken a very long time. We've been trying to get this done since early last year. In fact, end of 2019. And time and space was not permitting, but it is good that we are here. Thank you so much. Right, without further ado, allow me to just give us a bit of housekeeping rules before we get started. First and foremost, may we kindly mute our mics. This is our equivalent to a physical meeting where we say, please, may we observe silence. This is to allow the presenter or whoever is speaking to be able to speak fluently without any interruptions. If perchance you desire to speak, kindly raise your hand. It's virtual, your virtual hand. We have the option on your screen, the bottom right part of your screen. There's an icon written reactions. If you click on that icon, there's a sign that says raise hand. If you raise your hand, the admin or the individual who's hosting or speaking will then cede the right to speak to you. Then you may continue and speak, lower your hand and speak. And lastly, please make use of the chat box. It's one way that we can have a seamless meeting that can flow and not have regular interruptions because we're trying to keep track of time. So if there are questions or comments that you may have, please put them on the chat box, and whoever is presenting time and again will take a look at the chat box and respond to those comments and questions. Right, without further ado, can we get started with the program? Like I said, I'm Velile Dube and I'm on ZimTrade, the Southern Region. The purpose of today's meeting is basically, as ZimTrade, we are embarking on a drive to engage institutions of higher learning. We believe that exports, which is what we are primarily waking up every morning to come and do, our role as ZimTrade is to grow Zimbabwe's exports. So we believe that exports do not start at the factory or at companies. They start at institutions like Solusi, because the future captains of industry are being groomed right now at Solusi. The idea for us as ZimTrade is to say, can we tap into them now when they are still fresh and not yet in industry, so that by the time they get to industry, the concept or idea of exports is nothing new to them. We all know the value of exports to a country. I don't think these are learned people I'm talking to. I do not want to start giving a lecture on how important exports are, but the obvious low-hanging ones are foreign currency. We gain our foreign currency as a country through exports. We also have employment creation. If we export, it means there's a demand for more labor and we create more jobs. Over and above that, it improves what we call our balance of payments, our exports versus our imports. This is what then gives us or leaves us with, some form of liquidity as a country that can afford us to be able to trade with other countries. These are just a few of the advantages, or should I say benefits of exports. So as ZimTrade, our thrust is mainly to grow the exports of Zimbabwe annually. So we saw it fit to say, let's talk to the universities and get them in on the export discussion so that they can start inculcating that culture within their students. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to share my presentation that I have prepared for you. I see somebody saying, please share the program again. All right, I will do that just now. Meanwhile, let me share my screen, share my presentation. I hope it is visible. If it is visible, please confirm for me. Hello. Hello, is my screen visible? Can we see a presentation on your screen?
Yes, it's very much visible.
All right. Okay, thank you. Without further ado, let me start with my presentation. Like I said, do feel free to drop a comment or two on the chat box. In that way, when I am making the presentation, if there's a question or a certain point that you need clarified on, I can then attend to it. Right. Okay, right. So this is an export awareness webinar, and it's for Solusi, presented by me, Velile Dube. This is our outline about ZimTrade, Zimbabwe's trade performance, ZimTrade's interventions, market entry procedures, scope of engagement. This is engagement between Solusi and ZimTrade. Who are we? We are the country's trade development and promotion organization, which was formed in 1991 through a partnership between the government and the private sector. So ideally back then, ZimTrade, or what we are doing right now, was a desk under the Ministry of Industry, which used to look into export matters. The private sector then said, we feel we could be better represented. We would want an organization that is specifically set aside to deal with exports. And as a private sector, we want to fund it through what is known as a trade development surcharge tax. So there's a certain portion of all exports and imports that is levied to ZimTrade, which then enables us to carry out our activities that we carry out in our quest to grow Zimbabwe's exports. I'll move on to Zimbabwe's trade performance. The graph there is showing our performance. This is our exports versus our imports from 2009 all the way to 2020 last year. As you can see, the red line denotes the imports and the blue line is the exports. Ideally, what you want is the blue line to be taller than the red line. But unfortunately, because we're a very consumptive economy that is not producing enough of what it consumes, we tend to import more than we are exporting. If you look at the charts there, it's showing that, well, towards 2019 and 2020, it's been a bit better. The deficit, the trade balance, or the trade deficit or surplus has been 0.5 billion, which is 500 million for 2019 and 2020. We're kind of closing the gap. 2011 was really bad. We imported 8.6 billion worth and only exported 3.6 billion. I think then we were so excited by the US dollar and we ran amok with our imports. However, the graph is showing that as we get closer to last year in 2019, things have become better. Now, the next slide is the export market concentration. So as we export, we tend to take note, as ZimTrade, it's very critical for us to take note of the markets that we're exporting to. This is what guides us in the future with regards to market pointers and directing companies with regards to where they should export to, where there's a potential market, how well we've done in the past. So you can see on this slide, our biggest trading partner in 1992 has always been South Africa. It had 19% back then, which was a bit better. But now if you look at it in 2020, South Africa is holding 40% market share with regards to sales, or should I say trade with Zimbabwe. Something that I feel is very risky because if South Africa, as they say, sneezes, we definitely catch the cold. Other countries, you're looking at the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, it's also taking 20%. You have 23% that's being taken through by the rest of the world. And you also have your Belgium, your Zambia, your Mozambique, Botswana, and Kenya. That's just showing us the countries that we generally trade with as Zimbabwe. Next slide is talking about the products. We've spoken about the countries. Now we're looking at the products that are moving to the different countries. Ideally, the biggest in 1992 has always been tobacco. 35% back in 1992, and unfortunately in 2020 it's up to 73%. After tobacco, you've got your base metals and products. That's your gold and your minerals and that sort of stuff. And the others then share the remaining percentage. You'll allow me to move on to the next slide. The export performance by sub-sectors. So at ZimTrade, these are the sort of statistics and details that we need for us to be able to then better service, one, our clients, and two, to be able to record what we did and project what we want to do. As I already spoke to earlier on in the export products composition slide, which are the pictures, we have minerals and alloys, which generally are contributing 69%. This was 2019. In 2020, they contributed 73%. Then you've got tobacco, you've got processed foods, horticulture, clothing and textiles, building and construction. The list goes down, giving us the figures in terms of contribution to exports. The bulk, as we can see, is your minerals and then tobacco. Now, question is, how does ZimTrade intervene to grow our exports? We do this through 4 main pillars. The first one is market intelligence. In market intelligence, we are saying if you are to produce as a manufacturer or a potential exporter, it works better when you're producing with information. We want to make sure that you have adequate information that will assist you to be able to export. This sort of information is like 1, markets, in the form of 1, market. Which market are you looking at for what product? 2, contacts in those markets. 3, we do researches. So as ZimTrade, we deploy through our trade development surcharge that we get. We then deploy some of our officers to go into the different markets. Last week, as I speak, we had a team in Dubai and with another team in DRC. We are expecting another team in South Africa next month to go and take a look at what's happening there on a trade mission. We then look at the markets, assess the markets, see what is available and what is needed where, get the contacts, and then we come back and we give what we call a dissemination seminar, where we are then letting our clients or our exporters know that in Angola, there's a demand for beef at so much per kg. In this country, there's a demand for this at so much per ton or per truckload, 30 tons. We want you to be able to have adequate, proper information for you to then plan with regards to exports. After export market intelligence, we move on to export development. With export development, this is where we identify potential exporters. Somebody might be plying their trade unawares that they can export what they're doing. Mainly we see this with those in the arts and crafts sector. They're just making their baskets, weaving their baskets, not knowing that there's a very huge demand for those baskets in Germany, not knowing that there's a demand for those baskets in America. So as ZimTrade, we move around and identify potential exporters. Some may also be exporting, but we still then say you might need further development with regards to your exports. We can guide you to new markets. We can guide you with regards to trainings. Trainings, we train you on your marketing, your branding, your costing for exports. We train you on your packaging. We train you also on your logistics management side of things. We train you on the documentation required for you to export. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is to get you to a state where, in as far as exports are concerned, you are ready. After we develop you, we promote. Our promotions happen, like I said, last week we had a team in Dubai. We also had a team in DRC. Those teams do not move alone. They move with a number of companies. I'll give a figure for Dubai. It was 30 companies. 30 companies accompanied our ZimTrade staff to Dubai on a trade mission. Similarly with DRC, if I'm not mistaken, there should have been 25 companies. So those that we have developed, we then take them out. We also, in our development, because we believe that most of our international trade takes place in trade shows and trade fairs. This is where you meet potential buyers from all over the world. So we train you on how to set up your stand, how to interact with potential buyers when they come to your stand. Your presentation, your deportment, your grooming, we'll also make sure that we train you on that. So after we've done the development, we now move on to promotion, where we move with companies in a bid to then allow them to put to practice that which they've learned during the development. Last but not least, as you are transacting or trading within the international marketing space, you're going to encounter some obstacles. You might have challenges with maybe ZIMRA. You might have a challenge maybe with the Ministry of Industry. You might have a challenge with National Parks and Wildlife. You then come to us as ZimTrade. We have an advocacy wing that looks into your challenges that you're facing as an exporter. Whatever impediments that you are going through, our role as ZimTrade is to try as much as possible to resolve it so that your exports are not affected. Moving to the next slide. I've already touched on some of these things. Where I'm saying on our market intelligence, we've got our trade information center, our portal, our website, where you can go on and get all the information that you need. We also have what we call market pointers. Market pointers are based on the knowledge we've acquired over the years with regards to different markets. We then, in a particular sector, want to direct you to say, those that are in garlic, those that are in ginger, those that are farming chilies, there's a market in China or there's a market in the UK for bird's eye chili. We give you the specifications. We assist you also with the documentation that's required for you to penetrate that market. We also assist you with all the relevant information peculiar to that market that will allow you to go in there and do well. The next slide, market surveys. Like I said, we send our teams out. At times the teams go alone without any companies accompanying them. They go alone to do a survey, fact-finding missions to find out, to say, okay, what's happening in Dubai? What does Dubai consume? What does Zimbabwe produce? What can we supply to Dubai? So earlier on this year, a team went to Dubai, February, Rwanda 2, Tanzania will be in July. We're having the South African one next month. These are some of the surveys that have been done. We've done Mozambique, Angola, Zambia, South Sudan, Namibia, DRC, Tanzania, Botswana, and Dubai. So all these surveys that have been done culminate with a comprehensive report, a survey report, which allows us to then disseminate that information. On our website, these survey reports are available. I'll share our website link with you for you to be able to just browse through at your own time. Now, I'll give you, these are extracts from some of these surveys that were done. I'll give you examples like opportunities in Zambia, the construction industry, manufacturing inputs, agricultural implements and inputs, fast-moving goods, that's for supermarket shelves, mining supplies, that's all potential in Zambia that was found when we went for our surveys. Angola, we're looking at pork products, processed food, dairy, poultry, fresh juice and concentrates, fresh produce. We also have opportunities in Mozambique, protective clothing, engineering, electrical equipment, hand tools such as hoes, machetes, mechanized agriculture equipment, processed foods, poultry and beef, fruit and veg. Tanzania is with pharmaceuticals, agriculture, construction. DRC, mining, agriculture, processed foods, construction. Botswana, processed foods, fresh produce, agricultural implements, building and construction. Dubai is mainly fresh produce, but there's also a very big market that's growing for leather in Dubai. The leather demand in Dubai is very high, but the biggest one is fresh produce. That's something that we could supply in Zimbabwe. Now, another one that most people do not take seriously or into consideration is services. There's a very huge potential for export of services. And as ZimTrade, we're working on a strategy to export services. We are deliberately now focusing on services to say it's a low-hanging fruit. It's something that lies within the scope of an individual, and it's exportable quite easily. Some of the services, you're looking at education, you're looking at tourism, construction and engineering. We have some of our engineering firms getting contracts in other countries, Botswana, Angola, DRC. You also have freight and logistics, as well as health. Under export development, we have our flagship program, which is called the Marketing and Branding for International Competitiveness. This is a must-do program for all of us who intend on exporting, because as the name suggests, it looks at your marketing strategy, it looks at your branding, it looks at your international competitiveness. Most of our products as Zimbabwe fail on the export market simply because of our packaging. South African products appear superior to ours because they are well packaged, they are well branded, and in the end, they end up taking our market share on our shelves because of their packaging. So we as ZimTrade try to deliberately tackle that issue and say, when you export, we want you to be at par with other players within the international space. We normally work with an organization or two organizations called PUM and SES. These are experts, it's a collaboration of experts, mainly from Europe. What happens that side, the countries like the Netherlands, Germany, when somebody retires, they do not totally disregard that individual's skill or knowledge. What they do is then say the government funds that individual to be able to come across to developing countries and help with technical skills. So when somebody is in production, they may not be aware of some of the modern technology or the modern methodologies being used in the first place. These experts come down and they work with our companies to be able to groom them so much so that they can manage to perform at international levels. So ZimTrade works with these two organizations, PUM and SES. When a company requires their services through us, they can apply. It's free. The only thing you have to do is house the expert that comes down for that week in terms of their accommodation and meals. But the flights and everything are taken care of by ZimTrade. With specific projects that we work with as ZimTrade, we've decided to decongest exporters into sectors. We have those in horticulture, we have those in arts and crafts, we have those in apiculture, leather. The leather cluster has recently formed or launched what is being called the Zimbabwe Leather Collective, a very, very, very innovative initiative that's bringing all the players within the leather sector to be able to work together in terms of marketing and branding themselves. ZimTrade is funding that project. I spoke about export promotion. We have trade fairs, ZITF, we have Food Logistica that happens in Germany. That was cancelled, unfortunately, because of COVID. Caminex is in Zambia, that's for the mining sector. DRC Mining Week. So we normally, as ZimTrade, all of these important trade fairs, we make sure we attend. This is where we gather information and also where we get a chance to look for buyers whom we then connect with our locals. We also have our Rwanda Zimbabwe Trade Fair that's scheduled for June, Asia Pacific Leather Fair that's in Hong Kong. Later on, it's no longer in July, it's now in November this year, and the Agricultural Commercial Show from Zambia, ZAX. We have Global Expo in Botswana, the Rwanda Intra-African Trade Fair, and Maputo International Fair. All of these are trade shows that we attend as ZimTrade on behalf of companies. In some instances, we take a couple of companies with us so that they can go and, those that we've developed, so they can go and apply their trade. The lobbying and advocacy, like I said earlier on, as you are trading, you're going to encounter some challenges. Come to ZimTrade with your challenges, and we can see how best export-related challenges, how best we can assist you. Now, let's talk about breaking into the export market. Export readiness is a very important thing that a company needs to go through before they can even export. It's one thing to want to export, and it's another thing to actually export. The dynamics involved with exporting are a lot bigger than what somebody sees. People get attracted to the idea of exports because of the foreign currency and being able to trade outside our borders. But there are certain things that need to be looked into before you even export that will tell you whether you're ready or not. One of them is management commitment. Your management is going to be committed for you to even think about exports. If your management is not committed, they will not be able to release funds that are needed for you to brand and package and to be able to do maybe researches and transport, deliveries and logistics when you're exporting. Your product quality. On the international markets, there's no room to say, no, this is a product coming from Zimbabwe where they have a lot of power cuts or they've water shedding or they're having challenges with their currency. In the international market, all of that does not matter. If you put your product out there, it must be at par with the other competitors on that market. So the quality is going to be very high. Production must be committed to export markets. Export markets usually order in bulk. When they will order tons and tons of a particular product, and you're usually bound by contracts. It becomes a contractual agreement that for the next 18 months or 12 months or 15 months, whatever you agree on, you will supply this product at this amount in this quantity. Failure to reach, you are liable to damages and penalties by that buyer in the other country. So you've got to be committed to meet the production levels. Knowledge of international competitors, you've got to do a study of the market that you're getting into and find out what they are selling at, what they're producing at, maybe what sort of fabrics and materials, if you're into the clothing sector, what are they using so that you are also competitive in line with your fellow competitors. Finance and physical resources, those are very important when you're entering exports. Without the financial muscle, you will not be able to make it into the export. So that's very, very essential. We also have your export business plan. When ZimTrade is trained, you must be able to have an export business plan. This is like your rule book or your guide that helps you to be able to penetrate the export market. Preparing for the export market, research on the following issues: your market size, your consumption patterns, export procedures. As ZimTrade, we normally have what we call the guide to new exporters. It's our manual or rule book for anyone who wants to start exporting. It tells you everything you need to know about the procedures for exporting. So you also need to look into that. Talk to ZimTrade, who will help you. You need to look at your quality, your packaging, your labeling, the requirements in the target market. Certain markets have certain requirements for the labeling. Some markets want you to outline the ingredients of a product in the quantities, the nutritional value. You see that normally on your food packets. It's not that they just like to show off what's in there. The markets are required that they must put all that information as they label. Some will want you in the horticulture sector, they want you to label that this is coming from where, be it Zimbabwe. You also then think about the certification that you acquired as an organization. It helps you as you're penetrating the export market. You need to look at your distribution channels. How are you going to penetrate that market? Are you going to go in direct, or you're going to use a representative within the market and agent? It's all up to you. So Zimbabwe has what are known as bilateral trading agreements. In international trade, countries come together to agree on certain preferential rates, conditions, and luxuries, if I should call them that they afford each other so they can foster trade. So Zimbabwe has an agreement with Botswana, we have an agreement with Malawi, we have an agreement with Mozambique and Namibia. Our goods get into these markets duty-free. This allows us to be competitive with regards to the local market. So you also need to know these things as you are entering into exports. There are trading blocks. Now, a trading bloc is a bigger trade agreement between more than two countries. I'm sure all of you have heard of SADC. This is Southern African Development Community. So all of Southern Africa agreeing to say, as SADC, we want to promote trade amongst ourselves. So we'll relax the duties, we'll relax the certain quotas, or should I say embargoes on particular goods, so that we can have trade amongst ourselves. Recently, there's a lot of hype and buzz over the African Continental Free Trade Area. It's another one that looks to open the African market to be able to trade amongst each other with minimal barriers to entry. Now, as you're entering your market, certain strategies that you need to look at with each country. Every country poses certain challenges that are unique to that particular country. You've either got an option to directly export. You're here in Zimbabwe, ship your goods that side, no movement of personnel going to that country. Use your freight and the handling companies to move that. You have distributorships. Mainly companies do distributorships in Zambia, Mozambique, and in Botswana because they're fairly close in comparison to other countries. You get an individual within that local market who is already established, who then distributes your products for a certain fee or a particular markup. Partnership, you partner with the local in that target market, and you can open a company that could be in the local's name, but you have a partner and you're moving your product to that country. Or alternatively, you set up a shop completely in that market. This is when you've gone through your distributorship, you've done your direct exporting, and you've done a partnership, and you realize the market is that lucrative. You now want to penetrate it and make sure that you get the most you can out of that market. We also have tender bids. I know many companies here in Bulawayo are bidding for tenders in Zambia, they're bidding for tenders in Namibia, and because they have the skill and know-how, they can win it. Tenders get flighted, not only for the local companies within that particular country, but even the regional and international companies. Participating in trade fairs, you need to do that. Get the inward, outward bound missions where ZimTrade will take people to go and then create awareness about Zimbabwe and our products. Make sure you're a part of those because those help. A lot of information and contacts are made at these. Then we also can leverage the diaspora. Zimbabwe is a very, very, very vibrant, thriving diaspora that we can make use of. Now, scope of engagement. This is between Solusi and ZimTrade. What are the challenges that we need to resolve? One, how can we as ZimTrade partner with Solusi to grow our exports? Two, we're asking ourselves, how can we tap into the export potential by the services sector? Because Solusi is services. You're giving a service. How can we tap into the potential in exports that Solusi is currently undertaking? How do we build the missing link between exporters and the academia? I believe that innovation must stem from the academia, but exporters, or should I say the industry, is not making use of that. We now want to say as ZimTrade, Solusi, let's partner and see how we can make this work. How can we produce a graduate who's export orientated and an employer, not an employee? Many of us leave school and we want to be employed. Countries like America, Britain, China are successful because they have a lot of employers. Not everybody is looking for a job. There are many job creators coming out of there. So as Solusi, we want to throw the onus on you to say, can you, yes, not all of us will be able to start businesses, but can you also make deliberate efforts in ensuring that some of your students come out and become employers? The 5 pillars which we believe can increase exports with regards to you as Solusi. 1, teaching. I think it could be, this is why we have embarked on this drive to engage the institutions of higher learning. It could be a deliberate, concerted effort that Solusi makes to teach students on exports, the value of exports, the importance of exports to the country and them as individuals. Community service. Say community engagement should also focus on challenges being faced by exporters and would-be exporters. Want the community to know and find out what sort of part or role can the community play. Research. Institutions like Solusi have got the know-how. You have got the students. You have got the infrastructure. It would only make sense that research is done in institutions of higher learning. Industrialization that leads to Zimbabwean products being exported to foreign markets is also very important. This is the part where, as ZimTrade, we're working with the companies to make sure that their products are good enough for the export market. Innovation. I've always said innovation is something that we must all learn from institutions of higher learning. That is the epicenter of innovation. The minds are fresh. The individuals are young. They have the ability to think broad. They do not get deterred by rejection. We expect that innovation must be in the lifeblood of institutions like Solusi. Now, curriculum focus, I've already touched on that to say it will be good that in the curriculum we talk about exports, we talk about international trade terms, we talk about, we talk about all the relevant things that are important to exports, because these future captains of industry will bump into this when they're now in industry. We don't want that. We want them when they get into industry, they're ripe and ready. Export awareness education. I think back in 2008, 2007, when we were using ZIM dollars, or rather, should I say, when we moved from the ZIM dollar to the US dollar, people didn't see the need for exports because they felt, why must I export when I can get the foreign currency locally? But now things have changed. We now have a ZIM dollar again. We now need to deliberately work on exporting. What are the benefits we'll realize if we get into this partnership as ZimTrade and Solusi? Students with the export enhancing ideas could be adopted by companies. I mean, a good idea and a very sharp mind easily attracts the corporates. They're looking to employ people who are going to come and add value to their organization. So your students at Solusi will get preferential placement into the corporates because of this partnership that we're looking at. Students will be conscientized to start thinking of exports at an early stage. I've been barking about this relentless to say, let's not have them starting to talk about exports when they're now in industry. Let's start early. Solusi will get reach now and international visibility. I know you already enjoy some visibility, but it will now be amplified. And then generation of foreign currency for your institution and the country as a whole. There are some ideas that we've been bouncing around as ZimTrade, concept ideas that we think could help. Africa purpose, we're calling it that, to say students in getting to reach now internship and learning visits. So they get placed they get placed into attachments or different on-the-job trainings regionally as opposed to doing it locally. This allows them and affords them the ability to learn what's happening outside our borders and be able to then come back and implement it here. Hackathons, engaging with the university and captains of industry or different companies, we could come up with brainstorming sessions that provide solutions to challenges that are being faced by corporates. Company adoptions, I've already touched on that to say companies then, because we are working on a deliberate arrangement on growing our exports together as a partner, companies will then give preferential treatment to the university's students. Industrial parks incorporate our export mandate. They will work deliberately towards exporting. As I draw my presentation to an end, I would just like to reiterate that ZimTrade is committed to, one, enhancing export competitiveness. We try and find ways in which we can get you, the exporters, exporting and succeeding because you're competitive. We look at all the variables that affect your competitiveness. We want to develop a mindset to shift towards exports. That's why we're even now coming to you, the institutions of higher learning, to say, can we start talking exports at an early stage? We want to identify and promote value-added exports from each province, taking into consideration the government's devolution drive. As ZimTrade, we're working per province, and we've broken down the province into clusters so that each province contributes towards the export basket. So we're working on that as ZimTrade. And last but not least, we are investing in research and development on new innovations, technology, processes, and products. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, I come to the end of my presentation. I thank you. I will share this presentation and all the other presentations that will be done today with your team there so that they can then share with you at a later stage. But this brings me to the end of my presentation. Would we have any questions, Kasey? All right, I'm seeing a question from Sihlenyati. Is payment required for the export training program? Because it's a limited number of people, the intake annually that we take is about 40. Yes, there's a nominal fee that you pay. I think if I'm not mistaken, for this year, the fee should be 2,500 bond that's being paid. Most of our activities as ZimTrade are nominal. It's more of a commitment fee so that people can secure their spots, and over and above securing their spot, they commit. Because if we make it free, somebody will say, yes, I want it. When we've reached our total limit, we close off others, and then somebody pulls out last minute. So as ZimTrade, we just make you pay a minimum nominal commitment fee. I think, like I'm saying, this year should be 2,500 bond for one to be able to attend the ZimTrade programs. I don't know if there are any other questions or contributions. Can people hear me? Hello? Hello? Okay, so I want to get our next presenter in so that they can then make sure they set up for their presentation. Please, could you just give me 2 minutes? Sorry, I'm just waiting for our presenter from ZIMRA to log in, and then we will start. Hello, Gugu, I'm told you're the one making the presentation.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Gugu. Yes, you may proceed.
Okay, thank you very much, Velile. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Gugu.
And I've already shared my screen. Can you see the screen?
Not yet, not yet. Let me see. Let me see. Please try resharing again, Gugu.
Okay. Can you see it now?
No, I'm not seeing it. Just hold on.
Even my video is off.
Even your video is off, yeah. Yeah, are you sharing?
Yes, I'm not sure why you cannot see my video.
The settings here are such that you are able to share your screen.
Okay, let me try again.
Okay.
Can you see me, first of all?
No, at the moment, no.
You can see me as well.
No.
So maybe it should be something wrong with my camera. Okay. I'm sure you can now see me.
No.
You still can't see me.
I still can't.
Okay.
I can't.
And the presentation?
No. Oh, no, I'm not
Okay.
seeing.
From my side, everything seems to be in order now.
Okay.
I'm not
Maybe, how can I do this? Maybe I could ask you to,
send you the presentation.
yes, to email me the presentation, and then I can then share it from my side.
Okay.
Please let me know when you've sent it.
I've sent it to you.
Okay, all right, let me check it. Right. It has managed to download. Let me share my screen, then Google, you can take it from there.
Okay, that's fine.
Is it visible? Please confirm it's visible.
Not yet.
Okay. What about now? Hello. Can you see anything now?
Your screen is currently blank. I can only see that it's saying ZimTrade.
Is it? Even now, there's nothing.
Or maybe check with the other participants. Maybe there could be something wrong from my end, but
Okay.
I'm still not seeing anything.
All right. Everybody else, are you seeing anything there? Hello. Maybe let me stop and reshare. What about now? Are we seeing anything on the screen? Hi, Irene. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, the trade agreement and requirements for export slide is visible, but the volume is a bit low.
All right. Okay.
I can't even see that one.
All right. Can you see the slide? Hello.
Yes, the slide is visible.
All right. Okay. So Gugu, you may go ahead. I will be moving it for you as and when you want.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gugulethu Ndlovu. I'm currently based at the Customs House, Bulawayo Port, at the rebate section. Today, I'll be presenting on the trade agreements and the requirements for export. Velile has been talking from their side as ZimTrade, how they are assisting exporters in exporting and the information that they have or that they gather. So on our side is ZIMRA. We also have requirements for export, and that is what I'll be sharing with you today. So basically the outline of my presentation, I'll let you know about ZIMRA, the need for trade agreements, enactment of trade agreements, the benefits of these trade agreements, what we call bilateral agreements, multilateral agreements, then registration of companies under trade agreements, and then the last thing being export documentation. Please feel free to note down your questions, which you'll be able to ask at the end of my presentation. But should you need to stop me for anything urgent, please do so, do not hesitate. So the ZIMRA vision is to become a beacon of excellence in the provision of fiscal services and facilitation of trade and travel. We not only collect money, but we also facilitate trade and travel as part of our vision. Our mission is to mobilize revenue and facilitate sustainable compliance with fiscal and customs laws for the economic development of Zimbabwe. Our values are as follows: integrity, transparency, fairness, commitment, and innovativeness. ZIMRA's mandate, we derive it from the Revenue Authority Act, which is Chapter 2311. And that is, as already stated before, from our mission and our vision is to collect revenue, to facilitate trade and travel, to advise government on fiscal issues, and to protect civil society. Velile, I'm not seeing the screen, so I hope we're moving together.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
We are now on which one?
On ZIMRA's motto, which is "We are here to serve," before I get into the main part of the presentation.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So the first thing I'll talk about is the need of trade agreements. Why do we need trade agreements, or what are those trade agreements? The need for trade agreements, the first one is to facilitate trade between or among member states. We need to have an agreement between the different member states, which is the different countries, on how we're going to engage in business, on how we're going to trade. So there has to be a written down agreement on how we're going to conduct ourselves in business. Another thing is to boost economic activity of member states. When there is an agreement or you have laid down how you want to conduct business, that boosts economic activity, because each party or each member state knows how to behave or knows the expectation of another member. They enhance cooperation between member states. If you know what you're supposed to do or what you're not supposed to do, then cooperation is enhanced in that manner. They create a good environment for investment as manufacturers position themselves for the markets that have been created. Where we derive these trade agreements, that's the next slide, which is the enactment of the trade agreements. These were entered into by the president, and they are stipulated under the Customs and Excise Act, Section 99(1)(a). President makes regulations after we have made recommendations and advised them. They make regulations to give effect to those trade agreements. You'll find that in our Customs and Excise Act, Chapter 101. And then after that, those regulations are then gazetted. You'll find them in the Customs and Excise Act as well, Chapter 100, Subsection 1. As I stated before, when we're talking about the need for trade agreements, there are certain benefits that are derived from these trade agreements. They enable the equal treatment of goods in the countries that are party to these agreements. Then goods enter the market under preferential tariff rates, which are usually lower duty rates. When there are trade agreements between member states, you'd find that when you're exporting to those countries where a trade agreement is in place, you will enjoy preferential rates, tariff rates, which is lower duty rates. They also enable the standardization of business operations in the member states, and thus leveling the playing field. Another benefit of trade agreements, standardized regulation between member states. So we've got different trade agreements. What I'm going to talk about now is what we call the bilateral trade agreements. A trade agreement that is classified as bilateral is one where it's signed between two parties, where each party could be a country. Currently, we've got 4 bilateral agreements. We've got one with Botswana, which we call the Zimbabwe-Botswana bilateral agreement. That one was gazetted under Statutory Instrument 192 of 1988. We also have an agreement with Malawi, which is the Zimbabwe-Malawi agreement that was gazetted under Statutory Instrument 103 of 95. We also have one with Namibia that was gazetted under Statutory Instrument 156A of 1993. We also have another with Mozambique, which was gazetted under SI 33 of 2005. We used to have one with South Africa, but that one has been scraped off. Then the next slide should be multilateral trade agreements. A trade agreement is classified as multilateral when signed between more than two parties, which is typically neighboring or in the same region. Zimbabwe is part of what we call COMESA and SADC. Those are the multilateral trade agreements that we have. COMESA being the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, and SADC being Southern Africa Development Community. There are 19 countries in COMESA, which are Burundi, Comoros, the DRC, Djibouti, Egypt, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Kenya, Libya, Madagascar, Malawi, Mauritius, Rwanda, Seychelles, Sudan, Swaziland, Uganda, Zambia, and Zimbabwe being the 19th country. So what we're saying is if you are exporting to any of these countries, the trade agreement that you can use would be the COMESA trade agreement. Essentially, that's what it means. Or if you are going to be trading with the countries that are under SADC, which are Angola, Botswana, DRC, Lesotho, Madagascar as well, Malawi, Mauritius, Mozambique, Namibia, Seychelles, South Africa, Swaziland, Tanzania, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. There are 15 countries that are currently part of the SADC trade protocol. So you can be trading with a country that is both in COMESA and SADC. You choose which trade agreement you'd want to use. Botswana, we've got a bilateral trade agreement with Botswana, but it's also in SADC as well. You can choose the one that benefits you the most between the two. So my next slide is on local content. Basically, what we're saying is for you to export to these countries where you'll be enjoying preferential tariff rates, there are certain things that you should have achieved. For example, what we call the local content. Countries like Botswana have got certain standards that they say for you to be able to trade with us under this agreement, you should have attained a local content percentage of so much. So as an exporter, you need to know such things. You need to know what local content is. You need to know how you calculate that or how you derive the local content aspects. So that will be the next slide. The total value of local material used in the manufacture of the finished product is what we are referring to as the local content. This includes direct labor that is involved in the manufacture of the goods intended for export. The labor that is directly related to the manufacture of goods intended for export, that is what we are looking at when we're talking about local content. We're not talking about the admin staff, we're just talking about the labor that is involved in the manufacture of that particular product that you want to export. The total value is expressed as a percentage, of the ex-factory cost of the final product. So what we're saying is for you to come up with local content, you need to add the local material that is used in the manufacture of the final product. You add that to the labor that is directly involved in the manufacture of the goods intended for export. And you express that as a percentage of the ex-factory cost of the final product. So that is expressed as a percentage. There are different certificates of origin that depend on the trade agreement that you are using. For SADC, we've got the SADC Certificate of Origin, which is completed in triplicate. We've got the COMESA Certificate of Origin, also completed in triplicate. We've got the Zimbabwe Botswana certificate expressed in form number CE59. Then the Zimbabwe Malawi Certificate of Origin is referred to as Form 188. The Zimbabwe Mozambique Trade Agreement is Form 60 or Form 61. Those are the different certificates of origin that you need to present at the country where you are exporting to when you are claiming preference. I hope we're still together.
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. The next slide is the registration of companies under trade agreements. You have to be registered first before you can export to any country and claim preference. So there are certain things that you need to do for you to be registered. You come to our offices and then we take you through the process. So in brief, this is what you need to do. To enjoy preference, the manufacturer must have all their products that they intend to export registered. It is the product that is registered, not the company. So you can come as a company and say, I've got product A, B, C, and D that I want to export to this country, but the E and F I'm going to be selling locally, or I don't want them to be registered. You can do that. So it's the product that is being produced by that company that is registered, not necessarily the company. It's just the products. Registration is free, people. We do not charge for registration, and it is done at our head office. Although if you are in our region, we will do the preliminaries and do our recommendations to the head office. That is where the registration is then done. The manufacturer submits files to the regional office, which would be Mhlahlandlela for everyone in this region, Bulawayo, Vikfors, Hwange, all the way. You submit for the Botswana trade agreement. You submit 3 copies, specifically for Botswana. You submit 3 copies of the same documents. And then for all other trade agreements, you submit 2 copies. We call them files. So you print out everything that needs to be submitted. You put it in a file. For Botswana, you make 3 identical files. And then for all other trade agreements, you submit 2. I hope I'm clear on that one. So what those files contain, the first thing is a formal written application. It should be on your company letterhead or logo for registration, specifying the trade agreement under which your company wishes to be registered. You have to state that I am applying to be registered under this agreement. Is it Botswana, Mozambique, Malawi, or SADC, or COMESA, so that we know how many copies you need to submit and where to take those applications to. You also need to submit a certified copy of your certificate of incorporation. You also need to submit your CR14. You submit a valid tax clearance certificate. This is amongst other documents that will then advise you. For example, your cost analysis will also have to be submitted there, and other company documents that would be relevant to your specific industry. But in a nutshell, those are the requirements. Another thing would be a list of contact persons together with their contact details and physical addresses. You also have to state and list the products that you intend to export. Tariff headings are optional. You can include them in that list. You also have to list down your raw materials that you use and where they are sourced from. If they're imported, you have to attach the import documents. If they are local, you can submit your invoices as well, or receipts to show that you purchased them locally. This will help us in determining the local content that we spoke about earlier. You also need to submit a detailed step-by-step description of the manufacturing process for each product. A sketch plan of the factory showing machinery layout is also a requirement. A certified copy of your title deeds if you own the place, or lease agreement for the premises, together with any copies of utility bills incurred in the last 3 months. Then the last thing, you have to submit a factual cost analysis of the products to be exported. So what happens is an inspection of the manufacturing process is undertaken before registration. You notify us that you want to be registered under a certain trade agreement. We come to the premises and we check we go through the manufacturing process so that we are also confident that indeed what you are doing is manufacturing. We are able to answer any questions that we may be asked by the countries that you are exporting to, because the process doesn't just end with ZIMRA. When you have been registered as an exporter, those different countries can send their representatives to say, please go to such and such a company and observe the manufacturing process to see that these things are definitely manufactured in Zimbabwe. So we have to do an inspection before registration, before we send the documents to our head office. Moving on to the next slide that talks about export documentation. The following documentation is required for exportation of goods from Zimbabwe. The first one is your bill of entry, which is Form 21. You need to attach your commercial invoice as well. You need to attach your certificate of origin. Remember the certificate of origin that we spoke about earlier, your SADC certificate of origin, or COMESA, or the C59, which is the Zimbabwe-Botswana Trade Agreement certificate of origin, your Form 188 or Form 60. You have to attach those ones where you are claiming preference. You also have to submit CD1 forms. For personal effects, a CD1 form is required if the exports are valued at $2,000 and above. Commercial exportations, they always require a CD1 form. It doesn't matter the amount or the value of those goods. As long as it's a commercial exportation, you have to attach your CD1 form. You also attach your rail advice notes for goods that are exported by rail. You attach your consignment notes, your packing list, the original export permits where they are required. For example, you may be exporting agricultural produce and you've got your permit from the Ministry of Agriculture. You have to attach the original. So where export permits are applicable, please attach your originals. And then sanitary or phytosanitary certificates where they are required, you also have to attach those ones. So where you get this documentation or who does this, documentation has to be done by either a registered exporter or a registered clearing agent. In most cases, you have to engage a clearing agent who's going to assist you with these things, especially your bill of entry. Not everyone is able to get into a system and process a Form 21. It's only registered exporters or registered clearing agents that can do that. So generally, no duties are payable on exports, but clearing charges are paid to the respective agent. Where you have engaged an agent, that is the only fee in most cases that you need to pay. That is for the services that are rendered by the clearing agent. Otherwise, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your time. Velile, over to you.
Thank you, Gugu. I maybe will give time if there's anybody who wants to ask questions. Is there anybody with a question? While Irene, you're preparing to beam your presentation, perhaps. Anybody with a question? But on our program, it says there's a section for discussion. So maybe in the interest of time, can we then hand the floor over to Irene from Nedbank? If there are no questions, I'm looking here at the chat box. I'm not seeing any comments or questions, so I think it can proceed. Irene, over to you. Irene. 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 Morning.
It looks like my colleague Irene is having challenges in connecting. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Confirm if you can hear me, Veli.
Yes, loud and clear. We can hear you.
Oh, thank you. At this point in time, maybe I can proceed. My name is Innocent Manyalo, a member of the Nedbank Zimbabwe Group, based at Belmont, Bulawayo.
Okay, yes, please do proceed, Innocent. Are you going to share your screen?
I'm trying to do so.
All right, okay.
Hi, Veli. Are you able to confirm if you are seeing my screen now?
Very visible, thank you.
So I'll I'll proceed then.
Please do.
As advised earlier on, my name is Innocent Manyalo. I'm a member of Nedbank Zimbabwe, and I'm based at Belmont, Bulawayo. I'd like to express our gratitude to ZimTrade for allowing us to be part of this forum for exchange of notes, or for exchange of critical notes relating to export business in Zimbabwe and export mobilization. In summary, before I get to the screen that I have shared, summary, the role of Nedbank Zimbabwe is facilitation of smooth export transactions to existing exporters and would-be exporting clients. In doing this, we ride on our rich history in trade finance, dating back to 1954, when NBCA was first established. We are also currently riding on our parent, Nedbank South Africa, riding on their networks and their provision of various platforms to facilitate platforms. We do this in liaison with statutory and policy regulators who are ZIMRA and the Apex Bank, Central Bank of RBZ. At this point in time, I'll go to the slides. I hope you're still following. Really?
Yes, we can hear you. We can see everything. Go ahead, Innocent. Thank you.
I'm proceeding. To those who may not be aware, Nedbank is owned by the Ned Group Investment of South Africa, who are the owners of Nedbank South Africa. They own 66.02% of Nedbank Zimbabwe. And the other major shareholder is Old Mutual Zimbabwe, who have 20.46% of the shares. And an Italian company called the Nedio Banca di Credito, which owns 0.86. Nedbank Employee Share Trust owns 7.30%. Other small investors cumulatively own 5.36% of Nedbank. So this is the shareholding structure of Nedbank Zimbabwe. Hence, it is critical for all those that intend to be onboarded with Nedbank or to use Nedbank as their bankers to know this critical information, because it helps them as they do their transactions. I'll go to the next slide where we talk about Nedbank heritage. I mentioned that Nedbank was involved in trade finance way back since 1954 in Zimbabwe through MBCA, because it had not been bought by Nedbank then. But however, the experience that we've amassed over the years makes us a good point to deal with, because of the experience and our networks across the globe in relation to. We are also riding on the South African brand Nedbank to be able to do these export transactions and to facilitate them. I'll quickly go to slide number 4, where it says why Nedbank. Nedbank is a authorized forex dealer, strong corresponding banks relations. I alluded to South Africa, where Nedbank is housed. Because of that, we are able to connect to many corresponding banks, which makes foreign payments or foreign receipts more easier because of our networks, our expertise in trade finance. I spoke about the where MBCA started from in 1954, hence the years that we are alluding to in this presentation. We also have a Pan-African network where we've got branches in all the regions of Africa are represented, and also in the SADC. As a bank also, we have capacity to arrange offshore lines of credit using also our corresponding bank, which is the parent bank, which is Nedbank. We'll get to our expertise as Nedbank. We have been assisting exporters in the listed areas of business, that is agriculture, mining, services, tourism and safari operations, timber manufacturers, and tobacco merchants. All these have benefited from our wide network of corresponding banks and also the parent who is in South Africa, like I mentioned earlier on, Nedbank South Africa. I've gone to slide number 6. I hope colleagues are following. The challenges faced by local exporters. Yes, our local exporters usually face the following challenges: high cost of production, financing costs, high in the country, limited access to markets information. I think this one, ZimTrade is coming up with these forums so that we are always educating each other and exchanging notes so that those that would want to be in the export business can always ride on these platforms so that they make inquiries and we are there to educate them. I also noticed that ZIMRA just presented earlier than me. This is to show that we're trying to put all hands on deck to ensure that whoever would want to be an exporter or anyone who is in the export business and are facing challenges, they are able to come to us through ZimTrade, to come to us through ZIMRA, and so forth. There is a mention there of policy inconsistencies in the country. While it's, we acknowledge that the policies are at times inconsistent or they change in tandem with what will be happening in the country, it is critical that we stay together as stakeholders, ZimTrade, ourselves, other members, ZIMRA, so that should there be some policy changes that would affect an exporter or an exporting company, these are dealt with because of the network that we are sharing. Hence, this challenge is going to be minimized. You notice that I've moved on to another slide, which has got a heading: Nedbank ZIM driving transformation and enterprise development. Focus. Exports are imperative for national sustainability as well as ensuring a thriving and vibrant social and economic future for the country. Trade and exchange control advisory services, access to funding, provision of holistic banking services. Our value proposition, range of products and services aimed at servicing the needs of the customers, easy access banking solutions, dedicated relations and bankers, convenient. Basically, what this slide is talking about is that as a bank, we have a section that solely focuses on exporters, knowing that export business is a very huge earner of foreign currency in Zimbabwe. Hence, we have created a platform, a unit through our international trade finance and exchange control, where we are always there to advise our customers, to communicate with our customers in the event that there is need for funding for their exports. Hence, you notice that if you walk into any of the Nedbank branches, there should be a relationship banker or branch managers that will be there to advise you, share with you our contacts for specialists in those areas, and ensure that you are registered as an exporter to enable you to do your exports transactions smoothly in tandem with the statutory requirements that are there in the country to enable someone to export without having challenges with the authorities. In terms of the smooth transaction process that I alluded to, as Nedbank, we have got various accounts that we offer to our exporting clients and those that do local businesses. These could be current accounts, that is for local currency, exporter nostro account, domestic nostro account, local debit cards, local POS machines, international POS acquiring machines, a bank assurance offering. Maybe if I can dwell on the exporter account for argument's sake, to enlighten colleagues that could be interested in this product. As long as you are an exporter registered through your bank or through Nedbank, we ensure that we register you through the RBZ so that they can be able to view you or to see you in their register of exporters. Because the moment you are not registered through that process, it means your export transactions will not go through. Hence, the need to have this account so that when your export product gets to the destination and the beneficiaries want to pay you, they do that through your export nostro account. The difference between export nostro account and the domestic nostro account, as shown on the screen, is that there are people who are not exporters who do business locally. So we have separated the two and created a domestic nostro account for those that do not export, so that their local payments can be treated differently to those that export. I'm sure those two, the other ones are a bit clear, but maybe I can touch on the POS machines that we have. We've got local and export nostro acquiring POS machines. If your business attracts nostro transactions, we've always endeavored to facilitate these POS machines that take nostro or US dollars and all other currencies. The bank assurance offering is a product that we use to secure or to use as security all the security that our customers would have provided. For instance, we use bank assurance to insure the vehicle so that in the unlikely event of an accident, you are able to claim through us that asset. We have done this so much with exporters, because being an exporter or being exporters, the businesses require very efficient vehicles. So through our product that we offer to buy vehicles for the exporters, we have used the bank assurance to insure the cars so that the owners or the users are safe. We do the same on properties that could be used to secure the loans that we grant to our clients. We use the Old Mutual as our partner to insure those properties so that in the event of fire or destruction, we are able to ride on the bank.
Yes, we're following, Innocent.
Oh, thank you. Okay, yeah, sure. I was just checking. I'll go to maybe if I'm rushing too much, I'll allow people to take me back so that we can have a fruitful discussion. We also have, I've now moved on to electronic banking, where we have our e-banking platforms. You remember that last year we had a couple of lockdowns, I think 2 high-profile lockdowns, and at the end of it, people could not access banking because of the fear of spreading COVID-19. We escalated this robust system to ensure that all our clients were onboarded onto this e-channel platform so that they could do all their payments, they could do all their transaction inquiries on the platform as compared to coming to the bank. You recall that Valley below before March last year, you could bring manual RTGS transfers and to effect payments to your trade partners. So this platform has actually made it simpler and easier for you to pay from your offices, still using the panel of authorized signatories as per your account. So this system is very clever. It's very secure because we do not encourage signatories to do single payments on their own. So there is a structure that is put in place to ensure that if somebody initiates the transaction, the other signatory will sanction it, so that there is dual control to safeguard our customers' funds. So through this platform, you are able to draw down statements, view balances, processing payments, access to both the ZimDollar and the Nostro account. Also have the mobile banking app, which is also coming up well, where customers, mostly individual customers, can do their payments using their mobile phones and zip it as well. In all this, maybe to shift from the slide a bit, in all this, Valley, we are trying to facilitate smooth transactional businesses for our customers. Remember, even if you are an exporter, there are always local transactions that you do before the export materializes. So this platform helps you to pay your service providers, your suppliers, and other things, because as you build up to packaging of the export product, you get through these other expenses that most exporters will tell you about. Hence, this platform is there to enable that the transactions are done. Our international banking, I think I touched on this earlier on when I spoke about trade finance, international and exchange control. We are looking at local and cross-border Nostro payments, Nostro cash withdrawals, export receipts, SME forex auction participation, exchange control, treasury and advisory services, local funding solutions. You talk about order finance, bid and performance bonds, overdrafts, vehicle and asset finance. Remember, I mentioned that exporters and other businesses alike, we are able to buy them vehicles that they use for business. This is the product which falls under the vehicle and asset finance, where the vehicle itself is used as security to the loan as compared to us asking for a house, for any other assets to secure the loan for the vehicle and asset finance. We also have medium-term loans that we offer to the businesses. We do all this in an effort to smoothen the transactional endeavors sure if any one of our customers who scan through these products, they should be able to cherry pick what suits their business. Hence, all the list that we have there, because we understand that people do not do similar businesses and do not have similar models of business. Hence, we will have an overdraft, which is 12 months. We will have a medium-term loan, which is in excess of 18 months. We will have a vehicle asset finance, for instance, which is in excess of 18 months as well. The idea is to cover the whole spectrum of our customer base. I've moved on to the next slide, where I'm sure you can see Nedbank at work. Whilst we service our business clients and corporates, SMEs alike, we also take cognizance that these people have got employees that work for them. Hence, we always try to provide personal solutions to individual clients that work for these companies that we give loans and that we support in terms of their exports. So for every business that we onboard, we always go back and say, how many employees do you have? What are the needs of your employees? In this, we'll be trying to ensure that the individual employees are also catered for in terms of the loans, vehicle loans, prepaid MasterCards, private banking, products, savings and current accounts, depending on what we identify as their need, we proffer that as a solution. So this has helped us to ensure that we don't look at the business only, we look at the company employees. By doing this, or by bringing this approach to the fore, we have enabled most of our businesses to ensure that they are not overburdened by personal requests from their employees. Because employees, instead of going to the MD of the company to say, I've got a bereavement, I've got this, I need fees, they can come by virtue of working for a company that banks with Nedbank. They are able to come to Nedbank and say, I need a personal loan. The personal loan will be backed by my employer who holds an account with Nedbank. So that is the trust of the Nedbank at work. I think in a nutshell, this will be my presentation, but just to emphasize, our role is to ensure that there is smooth transactional businesses for our exporters and those that want to export through us as their bankers. And we do this riding on our rich history of where we have come from as a merchant bank. And hence we have been assisting a lot of mines, a lot of exporters, a lot of horticulturalists to attain their objectives. Thank you, Veli, for giving me this opportunity. I'm not sure if there could be some issues that I did not articulate well, or some issues that colleagues would want me to validate or clarify. I'll be able to take some questions for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Innocent. Thank you so much. I think you articulated it very well. I would just want to find out if there may be any questions. I know according to my schedule, we've shot over by 22 minutes, but I think we've tried, given the technology challenges that we're facing. Innocent, I know you will share this presentation with me, right?
Definitely, I will, for the benefit of all those that are logged in and those who missed the presentation.
A lot of people are having challenges there in Solusi with network. So some, they got locked out, they had no electricity, they're using a generator. The bulk of them got locked out. So they would definitely need the presentation. They'll definitely need it. So no, thank you. I don't know if there are any questions, comments, anybody? I am not seeing any hands being raised. Perhaps it means you did a very sterling job there, you know.
Oh, thank you, Ellie.
Thank you so much. You may stop sharing the screen, perhaps, so that I can then just.
Okay, all right.
All right. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for giving up your morning to be able to be joining us here for this very important awareness seminar. Like I said, the idea for ZimTrade is to get the discussion on exports starting from grassroots stage. We don't want exports to be something that people encounter only when they are now faced with industry that expects them to be dealing with exports. So as ZimTrade, our thrust was, let's get the universities and the higher institutions of the higher learning speaking about exports from an early stage. So we managed to have Nedbank. Thank you so much for coming through. ZIMRA, thank you so much. You are all our all-weather partners. Every time that we need your assistance, you are there, and we really appreciate that. Thank you to everybody who attended, and I'll be sharing the link to this with the Solusi administration, and also I'll be sharing an evaluation form that will be going to the Solusi administration that will be shared amongst those that attended. Kindly fill it in and send it back. We do that normally as ZimTrade to be able to assess how well we delivered, where we need to improve, and what we can do to improve. With that having been said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, and may you have a very, very fruitful day.